Coming up on Tech News Today, Nintendo gets real about the Wii U, at least with release dates and all. HTTPS has a crack in mobile security, and streaming music kills the earth. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Thursday, September 13th, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by the new Squarespace. Squarespace introduces a new content management system, making it faster and easier to create a high-quality website or blog, plus more than 50 new features, including mobile responsive designs. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase, go to squarespace.com and use offer code TNT9. And by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your iPhone, iPad, MacBook, or Android smartphones. Find out what your gadget is worth and get cash to upgrade to the latest iPhone at Gazelle.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show where we keep you up to date on the most important stories in the tech world, starting each time with the top 10 stories of the day. We call them the news feeds. We like explosions. Nintendo announced when you'll be able to buy the Nintendo Wii U this year. Japanese consumers will get it December 8th, costing 26,250 yen for the white 8GB base model or 31,500 yen for the black 32GB premium model. The U.S. and Canada get it a little earlier, November 18th. The white one will run $300 U.S. and the fancy black one $350 U.S. Europe gets it November 30th. No pricing information there. Both versions have the console with a stand, a Wii pad, a charging stand, and a play stand.
Apple's iOS 6 comes with over 200 improvements depending on where you live. The standard map application will be available all over the world, but the platform's 3D buildings feature is available to US-based users only. Its traffic feature is available in 23 countries like Australia, China, and the US and the UK. A full list of who's actually getting what is listed at Apple's site.
In an interview with All Things D, Phil Schiller explained some of Apple's decisions when it came to the iPhone 5. Apple declined to use NFC because Passbook takes care of everything the customers need today and doesn't see NFC solving any current problem. As for that new Lightning connector, Schiller said Apple had to change the connector to build thinner products, and this will be the connector for many years to come.
As part of attempts to revise the Video Privacy Protection Act in the United States, Senator Patrick Leahy proposes giving email stored on remote servers the same protection that email stored on a home computer gets, namely the need for a warrant. The measure has attracted bipartisan support as it would clarify requirements for law enforcement. Meanwhile, The Verge notes that the U.S. House passed an extension to the FISA Amendment Act, meaning the government will not need a warrant to wiretap anything it feels justified warranting.
Researchers have identified a security weakness that allows them to hijack web browser sessions even while behind HTTPS encryption that banks and e-commerce sites and other sites use to secure sensitive transactions. The technique exploits sessions protected by the secure sockets layer and transport layer security protocols when they use one of two data compression schemes for easy network congestion or faster page loading. IE, Chrome, and Firefox are all apparently immune to the attack, but smartphone browsers and other applications that rely on TLS are believed to still be vulnerable.
Windows 8 isn't officially out yet, but Microsoft has already announced plans to release a patch for a Flash vulnerability. Microsoft was originally going to issue the patch when Windows 8 became generally available, but now says the update will be available shortly without mentioning a specific date. Now, Microsoft embeds its own version of Flash in its browser and says it will align its release schedule as closely as Adobe's as possible.
A YouTube trailer of a homemade movie that insults Islam has been blamed for inciting widespread protests across the Middle East, and Google has temporarily blocked YouTube users in Libya and Egypt from accessing the trailer. Afghanistan has actually blocked all of YouTube in that country. U.S. officials told CBS News that an attack on the Libyan embassy that led to 4 deaths, including that of a U.S. ambassador, was a military maneuver that used the protests for cover.
Yesterday, Acer was preparing to launch its cloud mobile smartphone in China, running the also Chinese-born Alien operating system. According to Reuters, when reporters showed up to cover this launch, an Alibaba, who makes Alien spokesperson, told them the launch had been canceled, then later released a statement saying Acer had received pressure from Google to pull the launch. Acer was supposedly told product collaborations and Android authorization would cease if Alien was released. So far, Google has declined to comment.
NVIDIA introduced 2 new entry-level 28-nanometer Kepler graphics cards today. If you thought the other ones were too expensive, check these out. The GeForce GTX 650 with 1 gigabyte of video RAM and a gigahertz processor clock runs $109, and the GeForce GTX 660 with 2 gigabytes of RAM and 980 megahertz base clock, overclockable up to 1 gigahertz, will cost you $229. Both cards offer dual-link DVI connectors. The 660 has full HDMI and DisplayPort 1.2. The 650 offers mini HDMI.
And now for the most important story of the day, eBay is getting serious.
What?
And you could tell by its serious new logo. Now, the old logo had the letters overlapping in a wacky, fun kind of look. That's gone now. The new logo has the letters touching but not overlapping, showing that eBay has learned a lot about kerning recently. The colors are a little more muted, and eBay says the new look will hit in October.
I was slow on this, so give me a second.
reveal?
There
There's
we
a new
go.
eBay
See,
logo.
the old eBay logo, they all were jumbled over each other, but now it's less 90s.
They work together better.
Now they're side by side.
Working together, marching forward, conforming. All right, let's take a quick break. Thank our sponsor, Squarespace.com. Faster and easier than ever to create a new website or blog. I challenge you right now. You do not need to pull your credit card out of your wallet. You don't need to pull it out of LastPass or 1Password. You just go to Squarespace.com. You press the Get Started button, and you get started. You enter the name of your website, whatever you want it to be, your name, your email address, and you're off to the races making a high-quality, good-looking website. And you could be like absolutely horrible at designing things, as I am, and still make a beautiful website because they have all these customizable templates. They use HTML5 and CSS3 JavaScript foundations that are totally new. It's easier than ever to use Squarespace. And the best part, I think, the thing that's most impressive to me is that your images are automatically versioned 7 ways, as well as your templates being versioned different ways to accommodate the different screens. Nobody's looking at the same size screen anymore. It's not, mountains and mountains of 19-inch monitors out there. You never know how someone's going to access your website. So Squarespace takes care of that for you. It's going to look good on a little old 3.5-inch iPhone screen, and it's going to look great on a big old 32-inch cinema display. Whatever people are looking at your website on, it's going to look awesome. But you don't have to take our word for it. Go try it out. Like I said, give it a whirl. If you do decide you like Squarespace, you want to keep that website, do this. Use the offer code TNT9 at checkout. You'll get 10% off your first purchase. If you sign up for the monthly account, that's 10% off your first month. If you sign up for the yearly account, you actually get 10% off the entire year, plus a free domain name with those annual accounts. That's squarespace.com. Use that offer code TNT9, and we thank them very much for their support of Tech News Today. All right, Randall Bennett from vidpresso.com joins us today, a longtime friend of the show. Can we call you that, Randall?
Yeah, of course. We go way back.
How's it going, man? It's good to see you.
Going well. Going well.
Let's start off with Nintendo's big announcement, the Wii U.
Yeah, so lots of details today. And the cool thing about the press conferences or the stream was that right off the top, Nintendo told you the price and the date right away because they wanted to focus on games. Again, in the U.S., it hits November 18th, the 2 configurations with different capacities and different accessories. The deluxe version costs $350, and it does come with a game called Nintendo Land, which has a bunch of mini-games, including a Metroid game called Metroid Blast, with co-op use. So
that was the one they showed off right off the top of the announcement today? Okay.
They showed that one off. There's no Wii controllers included. They're saying the Wii U works with almost all older Wii controllers and accessories. So I don't know what's not going to be included on that.
The GameCube?
Possibly. But one of the other things is that the Wii U in Japan is going to be second tier. It's not coming out until December 8th. So North America gets it first. They showed off a bunch of games. Again, going back to the well with new Super Mario Bros. U. They showed that. It was pretty nice looking. And if you want to play as your me, you could do that, run around the stages.
M-I-I.
Yes, M-I-I.
Not as you.
No, not as me. You don't want to play as me. I'm not very good at that, at hitting bricks with my head or my fist. They also showed off some third-party games from Capcom. Activision, they actually brought out a guy from Activision showing off all kinds of games like Wipeout 3, Legends, 007 Legends, a James Bond game. And then they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we got another game, Call of Duty Black Ops 2.
Wow, so they're getting serious.
Big game right there. And the big thing they were showing off was not split screen gaming, because you could have the full screen on your gamepad and you could have another player playing on the television. So they were showing off the difference there. And they were saying, we've never been able to achieve this level of realism before on a Nintendo platform. Full HD, 60 frames per second. But one of the sticking points for the Nintendo, it seems like, this is from their CEO saying, it's still a little too early to guarantee which games will be here for you on the launch day itself and which will come later. These games are all going to launch within the launch window, which is November 18th to the end of March 2013.
So maybe not in time for the holidays at all.
Yeah, maybe not. So, but they're promising more than 50 games. Randall, you think this is enough to get people excited? I mean, the price points at $299 and $349 for this game console that might have 50 games by March seems a little bit high.
It seems like they're serious, though. I mean, the biggest takeaway for me from the press conference is that Nintendo is trying. They're trying really hard to make sure that console gaming is still their forte. The Wii U, I mean, regardless of your impressions of whether a touchscreen controller from Nintendo will work, getting people getting big games like Call of Duty Black Ops 2, that's a more hardcore game that wouldn't typically show up on the Wii in the same form. It might be there, but it would be dumbed down or kiddie-ified, right? This version, it seems like they're really trying to make something that's a little bit different, just like they did with the Wii. But I'm still unconvinced that the touchscreen. I'm unconvinced of the build quality. I haven't seen it in person. I've heard some people say it's pretty good, but
I've used it, Randall, and actually the build quality of the prototype that I used was fine. I didn't get to use a final model though.
Yeah. So I mean, getting those pieces aside, that they're building a touchscreen, which is a kind of a hard undertaking for any company. I'm still unconvinced that people really want to spend $300 on a Wii U when they have an iPad for $500 or an iPad 2 for $400.
Can't you get a base Xbox 360 for $99 too?
Yeah, right now you can. It's 99 or 150. I can't remember which. But
150. Okay, yeah,
fact check that. But yeah, I mean, if the graphics are no longer a thing that can set people apart. We've kind of hit a plateau where graphics don't really change the way you view it. They're all 3D, they're all shiny, they all look good. And now Nintendo's on the same bar as maybe the Xbox 360 or the PlayStation 3. And they're the first ones out of the gate, which is definitely an advantage for this next generation of consoles. But I still just don't know that. I mean, I'm not going to buy one, and I'm a pretty hardcore gamer, so.
Don't you think this is going to get lapsed by the new versions of the Xbox and the PS4 when that comes out? I mean, because they do have a jump for Nintendo, but the games look as good as the current crop of consoles. And that's because of years of development.
That's what they're betting on, though, right? Like, you don't want to be the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast was, like, marginally better than the N64 or PlayStation, but not as good, arguably, as the PS2 or the GameCube or any of the consoles that came out afterwards, the Xbox, etc. So they're kind of putting themselves in that Dreamcast-like position of, we're better than the current crop of consoles because we have this touchscreen, which is different. But at the same time, we don't know what the Xbox 720, whatever the freak it's going to be called, is going to look like. So.
Well, when the Wii came out, it was already behind the Xbox 360 and the PS3 at launch, but Nintendo didn't care. They said, we've got motion control, we've got Mario, we've got Link and Zelda. And that's why people are going to come, and it was cheap, right? It was a significantly a bargain. This one is not necessarily a bargain. We don't know what the prices of the next generation of Xbox and PlayStation will be, but it's more expensive than Nintendo has in the past. I mean, they've held the line on that price for a long time, and I just think it looks bulky. It doesn't look like a very welcoming, simple thing like the Wii did. This looks like it's a little more complicated. And I know it's not necessarily, and the touchscreen has some great advantages, but I don't see the compelling reason to have this. And I see some obstacles in the way of the purchase decision. I don't think Nintendo's cracked it with this one.
Why do you think they decided to go U.S. launch before Japan, especially considering what you just said?
Yeah, they did that with the Wii, too, which was the first time that they kind of flip-flopped that. And I guess they feel like they want that momentum from the United States and from the press and the enthusiasm that it might get if it does catch on.
Right.
I don't know.
That maybe if it does do well, it would do better here than Japan initially.
And Nintendo's also got the issue of sticker shock. With those prices, I mean, Xbox and PS3, and they can all get away with the idea of, oh yeah, you can buy another thing. It's not bundled in. It's not like the Nintendo. You have to get the gamepad with the Wii U. because it's not some secondary device you use all the time.
Exactly.
So I think that's going to be a hard line to go against, because again, Xbox can be like, or Microsoft, use your Windows phone, use your iPhone, use whatever you want. We don't care. You're going to buy that anyway.
You are the controller with Kinect. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is that it's not actually that different, right? We've been interacting with touchscreens for a good 2 years, going back to the iPad, and the iPhone sort of kicking off the trend in 2007. I mean, this isn't as revolutionary as the Wii, which was like, oh, you can play games by just like waggling your arm, and that was so revolutionary that people were kind of giving it the benefit of the doubt. The Wii U doesn't have a lot of those same advantages. We've played touchscreen games. We know how they're supposed to work. The interaction between the touchscreen and the TV is kind of interesting, but at the same time, like, it's not this holy cow revolution that the Wii was.
When I bought a Wii, it was not an either-or decision. It was a different thing from the Xbox 360 and the PS3, and it may be a mistake for Nintendo, or it may not, to push this closer to the Xbox 360 and the PS3, saying, look, we're going to have Call of Duty, and we're going to have more sophisticated game controllers that give you a finer-tuned control over the actual gaming experience. This isn't just a throwaway fun thing for the casual gamer. You can do that with it because it still supports the old controllers, but you can do so much more with it. And the other thing that the other consoles are doing is moving into the home entertainment space. Xbox and Sony both saying, hey, this is where you're going to watch your movies and stream music. And Nintendo had a big announcement about that today.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really saw this coming. Well, Nintendo TV, and they're spelling it TV-II, like me or
T7.
We. Yeah, or T7 as Thomas
Romans
decided. Now, this is effectively what Google TV was supposed to be. It's a new way to find TV, movies, sports. You can find your favorite programs. So on the gamepad itself, you'll be able to look at your video options that are available on Netflix, Hulu, your DVR, TiVo, Amazon, all in one place. So if you're looking up a show or something on the gamepad, you'll be able to just click the show, the episode you want to watch. Then when you click that, it'll show up on the TV. Then Nintendo's claiming, you have a really great integrated second screen experience. You get all kinds of specs. Let's say if you're watching sports, you can get all kinds of stats right on the gamepad. It's really customizable, apparently. It's got favorites. So like when you have your Me set up, you can have, okay, I really like sports, so it'll show you that first. Or if your friend likes sitcoms, that'll show up first in these guides. It's a real push into the entertainment field, which Nintendo has not really done. I mean, they've had Netflix and they've had a browser, they've had a bunch of things that makes it internet connected. But this seems to be trying to put everything in one location. It's rolling out in the US and Canada. It's free when you buy the Wii U. So does this look like does this make the Wii U more compelling now? It's a kind of a cord cutter kind of situation, because you don't need to figure out, okay, is it on Netflix? Is it on Amazon? Is it on TV? Like, it's supposed to be integrating that all into one.
I kind of like this because it's, I feel like the Wii U is bulky, but in this situation, it's kind of cool because it acts like, I don't know, a variety of apps that I might have on a tablet, say, an iPad, that I would run, and then I would maybe AirPlay to my TV, and I've kind of got this nice integration, and I've got a second screen right in my hands, in my lap. But this doesn't require me to download a bunch of stuff. It's just talking to my television off of the bat. I do like it. I think that does make it more compelling because it's for all sorts of stuff you might already have. You might have a Netflix account, you use it all the time, and Hulu Plus, and et cetera.
And it integrates with the DVR. They showed a TiVo logo on there. Google TV does this too. But I already, without even trying this, can tell that the interface here seems a little more refined. My problem with Google TV has not been that they haven't been improving the interface, which they have. It's gotten really good. But it's laggy. Sometimes it doesn't always work as intended. And they don't have all the programming. So I want to see this in action. But I'm pretty excited about the idea of this.
Randall, do you think the gamepad makes it more compelling as opposed to using that Google TV interface, which was a keyboard and a trackpad? That seemed a little bit clunky compared to, I guess, I think people are more used to
old school
playing with a tablet.
Yeah, I got rid of I had a Google TV actually that I'd used for a couple months, and I actually unplugged it because I didn't find any value. I found myself spending 0 time in the Google TV. We got an Apple TV, and we find ourselves using that just because we have iPads and iPhones, right? The thing about this that seems interesting is I want to have a tablet interface for my TV, or I want to be able to access programming. I don't have to get out my iPad. This just is going to stay in the living room. It's just going to sit there. And if they pull off the experience, like you were saying, Tom, if it looks, if it seems like it was designed with a tablet in mind, I think that if anything, it's interesting. It's unclear how successful it will be, but I still think, these set-top boxes that we've had for years aren't offering anything that's drastically different than what my TV offers me, right? On-demand content is nice, and it's great to have Netflix, but like the Roku does that really well. If Nintendo is, it's a nice value add to say that, I already bought a Wii U, now I don't have to have a Roku instead. But I don't think that the experience of, watching TV, I don't think this will sell more Wii U units necessarily, but it gives Nintendo a nice in for this connected living room that everyone has been expecting for 20 years. And Nintendo or Microsoft and the Xbox and Sony and the PS3 have been kind of gearing up for. Nintendo's on the same page, but it's just not. The tablet interface is interesting, but I'm not personally that excited about it.
I could see this tipping me over the edge, actually, if it works really well. I could see this where I'm sort of like, I'm not sure about the Wii U. This could be the thing if it comes out, hey, that TV service is really good. I'd be like, all right, I might as well get it because then I can play Zelda and I can play Mario as well. And I've been looking for that box that's going to unify my experience of watching TV over the internet. I'm not saying that this is it, but if it were, that could definitely be my decision point.
That's definitely my hesitancy. Is I don't think this is the box that we've been waiting for, and I guess reviews and time will tell if that's actually the case. But my gut reaction is that this is a nice to have, is not a need to have. Most people I think will be happy who have it, but I don't think that if you are looking for a TV box, Apple TV is $99. That's like almost an impulse purchase.
Roku's even cheaper.
Exactly.
Neither one gives you a search function like this. That's the thing. That's what I'm like. If Nintendo's the company
the Sony Google TV does.
Well, if this one actually cracks it versus getting blocked and confusing people with laggy hardware. I mean, if this could actually do it.
Well, it's going to be blocked on the browser side, but it has Hulu Plus.
If it could work as well as that demo, that's the big if, right? Like if it can do that, it'll be really interesting. Because then
can you watch TV on the tablet controller with something else up on the TV, or is that not work?
As far as I could tell,
you can play games on the tablet while someone's watching something else on
right.
TV.
As far as I could tell in the demos, I don't think you can watch TV on the.
I guess that wouldn't make sense
on the gamepad just yet.
All right, still some fallout from the big Apple announcement yesterday. Lots of details trickling out, and unusually, Phil Schiller gave a big, meaty interview after the announcement.
I wouldn't call it a meaty interview, but he did answer some questions. He spoke with All Things D after the event to clarify some questions that people had.
I'm so starved for meat from actual Apple employees.
You're not going to get
full.
full.
The thin broth we got.
Your stomach will rumble slightly less. So here's what he said. In response to folks saying, why didn't Apple go with NFC? Why just Passbook? Passbook alone doesn't do what NFC does. Phil Schiller said, Passbook alone does what most customers want, and it works without existing merchant payment systems. He said, it's just not clear that NFC is the solution to any current problem. There are other folks who have said that in the past. NFC seems to be trying to solve a problem that isn't necessarily there for a lot of folks. Depends, though. I mean, some people still think NFC means payments. I'm not really starved for payment options. And then other folks say, well, no, NFC could be for a lot of things. Payment is just what gets the most attention. Obviously, NFC is in some phones already, but with Apple adopting the protocol, it would have pushed NFC over the edge. Probably a lot of more apps being made, merchants making more investments in hardware that would handle NFC payments. So there's a little bit of a holding period. I know a lot of people think about that. He also said on the subject of wireless charging, folks said, I mean, it can be done. Why wouldn't you do that? That seems, so clean. He said wireless charging systems still have to be plugged into the wall so that you can charge wirelessly. So it's not clear how much convenience they actually add.
So until the power is actually beamed directly from the power station to your phone.
From the heavens.
We're not going to do it.
Right. Until we do solar, he says the USB cord can charge into a wall outlet, a computer on airplanes, that sort of thing. So again, this is Apple saying, do you really need something like wireless charging? We don't think you do, at least not yet, not how the world works now.
You don't want that. This is Apple's refrain over the years. You don't want that.
Exactly. Then on the subject of the new Lightning 9-pin connector that replaced the former 30-pin connector, he said, wasn't possible to build products as thin as the new iPhones and the new iPods, which according to those who have seen it, are very thin and are very light, says you got to change the cord. So the new Lightning connector is something that they're very serious about. He says this is the new connector for many years to come. So not some sort of a stopgap thing,
Right.
at least as far as what Apple's telling us now.
That seems legit to me.
I think
the
so,
old
too.
connector just did take up a lot of space. In the
Molly
phone.
Wood over at CNET wrote somewhat of a scathing article about the new Lightning connector
What?
yesterday. Yeah, I know. She's upset. No, she some really good points. She says this is a proprietary connector and it's bad for consumers and it's bad for the environment. She points out that just last year, Apple was supporting the International Electronics Commission's push for universal micro USB charging standards. They were on a big list with a bunch of other big companies that have a lot of money and a lot of influence. She points out, too, Lightning to USB is just USB 2.0, so it's not like they can say, well, we'd love to have gone micro USB, but we're just so concerned with a fast transfer of data. It's not really. It's not even USB 3.0. Plus, not all 30-pin devices are even going to be supported. So you're looking at some accessories that, even though we see that there's a converter and you've got a couple of options there, it's not going to work with a lot of accessories. And Molly says, hey, when stuff like this happens, Apple makes more money, of course, because it's a proprietary technology, but it's bad for you because you have to buy.
Yeah.
You have to buy into this new technology, and it just creates waste. The way it goes.
I think all of her points are very well made. The thing is, I don't think it has to do with the new connector. This has been happening with the old 30-pin connector with revs and hardware for years.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't notice it as much because you didn't get a new connector. But how many devices, have you ever gotten into a hotel and you've got that alarm clock and you're like, ooh, I can charge my phone. You put it in, it's like, not supported with this device. Or I rented a car and it has an iPhone connector. Oh, sound through not supported with this device. I mean, Apple does this all the time. And so the fact that it's changed the form factor hasn't changed the fact that Apple believes that they know best and they don't really pay that much attention to backwards compatibility.
I agree. They also made a big deal about how it can connect front or back, so you don't have to worry about being upside down.
That's kind of nice.
Now, I know
not a big deal, but
you
it's
and
kinda
Leo
nice.
both said, yeah, that's pretty cool yesterday, and I thought, I mean, seriously, it's so easy to just look and see. But I guess there have been times, you're
It's a minor
low
annoyance.
light situation, or you haven't had your coffee
When you're
yet.
a feats like Leo and I, these sorts of small things matter.
Also, really quick on the subject of why the iPhone 5 wasn't going to be available for pre-order right off the bat. We have to wait a couple days. The timing of it all. Some analysts have pointed out really good points that the iPhone 5 is launching on 9 countries September 21st, and then you get 22 more countries that get access to it September 28th. So that's more than 100 countries by the end of December, which is a faster rollout than they have with any other version of the iPhone. But the fiscal quarter, Q4, ends September 29th. So Apple guarantees, as long as it sells well right off the bat, that by the 28th, they have great numbers, and that next quarter looks really good.
Although then they have to, I guess you're right, because the full Q4 is still not going to suffer in comparison to this little boost at the end. So
right.
it is interesting timing from that perspective.
Yeah, all the stuff that Schiller said, these things make me think, okay, iPhone 5S will have NFC, wireless charging, all these extras. You need to add it eventually, because what's going to be what's the next upgrade? I'm already talking about the next iPhone. I'm like, yeah, that's what Apple does.
Stop it.
They're going to
Just
add
stop
something
it.
right now. I'm telling you. But the thing about NFC, though, that does bother me is that when you want to share things, I like the idea of not going, let's launch an app and then do this and that and the other thing. Samsung makes a big deal out of this with their Galaxy S3 apps. It's like, oh, you want to share a photo? It's like, that's
Does
all you
it
gotta
really
do.
work that way?
Don't have one.
Or do you have to make sure that the app is in background process?
I think it's always running.
So NFC, one app has to, one device has to initiate the NFC. The other one can understand how to use it. So like NFC can initiate app launches, right? I'm not depressed that they're using NFC at all, that they're avoiding NFC rather. I think NFC is kind of an overhyped technology. And I tend to agree with Phil Schiller in this case that I don't think it solves a real problem. When credit cards came out with tapping, really? You can't swipe a credit card? So Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, we have all these other wireless standards that can accomplish similar tasks. And, optical scanning is still something that will work. NFC could catch on. I'm not saying it's not going to catch on, but I don't think it's caught on yet. I don't think that they have to put it in ahead of time, you know?
Randall, you're speaking like a guy who's never damaged a magnetic strip. Now, I've damaged a magnetic strip on one card, and it actually has PayPass on it as well, and that still works. So it's kind of a small thing, because I'm the one guy who confuses the tellers.
You'll figure out how to damage an NFC chip soon
I will
enough.
work on that. Tell you what.
You have hammers. You know how to do
we
things.
tried to pay for Pete's coffee yesterday with Eileen's Google Wallet on the Samsung Galaxy Nexus with NFC. And he's like, oh, it won't work because you don't have enough on your credit. She had like the leftover from the $10 credit you got from buying the Nexus 7, and it wasn't enough to cover the cost of the coffee. So we couldn't use it at all. Like,
Awesome.
you either have to have enough or you can't use it. Like, well, that's not convenient.
Yeah.
Let's take a break and thank our other sponsor. If you're thinking about buying one of these new phones, whether it's the iPhone or something else, you may want to get rid of your old phone. So how do you manage that? How do you sell your old phone and then have the money to buy the new phone? You either have to go ahead and front for the new phone and then sell your old phone because you don't want to transfer them you don't want to lose your old phone and be without a phone for a while. Gazelle has it solved for you, by the way. They'll take all of this stuff out of your hands. They'll make it simple. They'll make it easy. They'll lock in your quote for 30 days. So if you go there right now and you say, I've got an old iPhone, I want to sell it because I'm going to buy that Motorola Razr M or whatever it is you're going to buy, you can lock in the quote for the iPhone for 30 days. And if you do it now, it's locked in at whatever the price is now rather than what the price will be in a week because it's going to go down as more and more people sell these. So then you can take your time, go order your phone, wait for it to show up. If you're getting a new iPhone, you can wait for September 21st before you send your phone off to Gazelle. Then as soon as you do, they provide the shipping label. It's free. You drop it off, put it in the mail. Once they get it, they pay you quick. It seems unfair, but they let you take your time. They do things fast on their end. They'll pay you by PayPal. They'll pay you by check, pay you by Amazon gift card, which gives you a 5% bonus. So don't wait. Go just go try it. Even if you're on the fence about whether you want to sell your old one or not. See how much you can get. Go to Gazelle.com. That's GAZELLE.com. Find out what your old iPhone is worth. Take a minute and do that right now. And in the little drop-down menu, when they say, how'd you find out? You can tell them podcasts. You can choose Tech News Today. Helps us out as well. We thank Gazelle for their support of Tech News Today. Got a bunch of privacy law news today. We'll try to run through it real quickly so we don't put you entirely to sleep, but it does impact your day-to-day living. Senator Patrick Leahy here in the U.S. introduced a bill today to the Senate Judiciary Committee that would give email on remote servers the same privacy protection as email at home. You may not realize this, but if you're using Hotmail, Outlook.com, Yahoo Mail, Gmail, your email can just be taken without a warrant if the police think it might help their investigation. Because under the 1986 Electronic Communications Privacy Act, email not downloaded after 180 days is considered abandoned and doesn't require a warrant. Now, back in the day when email wasn't a cloud service, I guess that kind of made sense. But today, it doesn't make any sense at all. Now, this has been challenged in district court, and in the 6th district, the government determined that you did need a warrant. So now law enforcement is saying, well, now we got to figure out what district we're in, if we're prosecuting somebody, which law applies. So you get this bipartisan support. Law enforcement would like this to be clarified, and of course the EFF and the ACLU and those folks would like to have privacy protections for you on your cloud-based email. Now, on a side note, wiretapping won't require a warrant for 5 more years under the FISA Amendments Act, which was reauthorized to go to 2017 by the House. Still needs to be passed by the Senate. But that's the one that is supposed to target terrorists and foreign operatives, but can be used domestically. A guy from the NSA has said it has been used domestically, and the only supervision is a secret court. So while you might be getting more protection soon on your email, you've got less protection on your telephone calls. And Representative Ed Markey is proposing the Mobile Device Privacy Act, where consumers must be informed who is tracking them on any mobile device, service, or app, where the info that is being tracked is going, how it's being used, that it's secured properly, and ways to block it. Even if you've given permission, ways to withdraw your permission to be tracked. This all comes out of the Carrier IQ controversy from a while back. Fines for violations under this proposal would be set at $1,000 to $3,000 per violation, and you could have multiple violations per person for each time they track you. We likely won't see any action on this one until next year. So with all of this sturm and drang out there, with people really upset about FISA and the wiretapping and worried that maybe they're going to get tapped. And with on the other hand, the government coming in saying we need to lock down protections for email. Are you worried about your privacy, Randall?
I mean, to some extent, yes. I mean, the privacy I'm most worried about is my email, right? I think if someone's going to screw up, find information about me that I don't want them to find out, or use, like, illegally prosecute me somehow, I think it's going to be local law enforcement, to be honest. I mean, there's always situations where, especially in smaller communities, I'm from a small town, and you find where, the major builder in the town is friends with someone in the police department, and they want to, fix it so that they get the only contract in town. I mean, because that, I think, is more likely to happen where there's less oversight. The email thing, I think, is great. I think it's awesome that they're clarifying this bill, and that, now that no one downloads email, like, I'll be honest, no one does, this is the right way to go about things. We can update a 1986 law to support a 2012 use case. The other stuff is concerning, right? I mean, the warrantless wiretap thing is concerning, but it's less concerning to me as a person, just because I'm not in, really controversial things with the government. If I was, in Occupy Wall Street or Anonymous or one of those, like, people who are a lot more in a gray area, it would concern me a lot. And I think the EFF has every right to support dealing with those situations, to help people who, would be whistleblowers in the federal government, help, support them. But at the same time, like, it doesn't affect me at all at this point. So the smaller entities that I'm worried about are being taken care of.
What about you, Iyaz?
I think I'm just so beaten down at this point where it's just like, yeah, I don't think I have any privacy anyway. So, like, I'm not so worried about, oh, look, they're going to protect me some more. That's great.
You don't feel like you have privacy, so the idea of a secret FISA court doesn't...
No, it bothers me.
Freak you out?
No, it doesn't freak me out. I'm just kind of like, oh, it doesn't surprise me that it exists,
Yeah.
Or like every time we find out there's a state-sponsored attack on something else, you're like, oh yeah, well I figured that was happening anyway. So it's more like it continues to depress me, Sarah. That's what I'm getting at here. And as for Ed Markey's Mobile Device Privacy Act, I love this idea that it'll be like clear and conspicuous, and there'll be like a notice. And I love the idea that people will look at the notice, because that's why we have the EULAs that pop up, and that's why we have these booklets that come with our contracts, and that's why we have all of these I agree to terms and conditions that we all read. It's like, as much as this, like, the idea is
irony note for those not getting it.
Yes, thank you. The thing is, as well intentioned as this is, in practice, it's very difficult to get people to care.
You know what? You're absolutely right as far as, like, the immediate effect of, is every person going to be informed about what is being tracked? But what is good about these laws and about those booklets is that an organization that thinks somebody is doing something wrong can use them to find out. And there may not be any other way to find out. So it may not help every single person, and every single person may not read them. But if the EFF gets wind that some nefarious tracking company is collecting stuff, they can go and they can say, where's your disclosures? Let's see it. Let's read this stuff. And so it can help, like, catch the worst people.
Well, and it's like those when they update EULAs or privacy policies, so that they say, like, we're going to sell this to every marketer that exists who wants it. One person will read through the entire thing and be like, dude, what is going on? Are you serious? And that one person, because of the disclosure, it gets bigger press. The first thing that popped in my head was all those signs that you see everywhere in California apartments that are like, this is known to cause birth defects or whatever. I think, it's not going to be quite as useless as that. But I like what you say, Tom, that, having to disclose it means that when an issue happens, we have a way of at least diagnosing, like, where did the issue start, who gave them permission, et cetera.
And the company's complaining, like, oh, this will kill innovation. I mean, Facebook does more than this already.
Exactly.
And they seem to be doing, well, their stock price is pretty down, but, they're not going out of business.
Went back up.
Yeah, that's right, because of the iPhone.
It was anyway yesterday.
Yeah.
I haven't looked
and
at it lately.
Zuckerberg talks well.
I think, I do kind of agree with you that I hear about this stuff and I say, yeah, privacy. Tough to have these days, and there are secret agencies that are working behind the scenes, and we find out about stuff, we get uncomfortable about it, but I'm never really I never assume that if we squawk loudly enough, then the government will say, you know what, it's true. We are snooping on you a little bit too much. We're going to stop doing that. What does bother me is an act written in 1986 that describes how email works, that allows government officials to get around it because it no longer exists and there's, a huge gaping loophole. That's the sort of thing where I'm like, rewrite the damn thing. That's not how email works anymore.
Well, and actually law enforcement agrees too, because they're like, look, this has been challenged in court. Now we don't really know in any given case whether we're following the rules or not, so let's all clarify the rules. I think Senator Leahy's proposed bill here is the least controversial of the three that we talked about.
Right.
Let's move on quickly to crime. The compression ratio info leak made easy exploit that researchers Giuliano Rizzo and Tai Duong have devised. This allows you to break HTTPS if it's using either TLS, the Transport Layer Security Compression Protocol, or SPDY, another compression algorithm that Google and Twitter use. Now, before you freak out about the fact that HTTPS may or may not be broken, HTTPS itself is not broken. This is an exploit that takes advantage of the encryption, and I'll try to do my best to explain it so you can understand it. First of all, the browser itself must support TLS or SPDY, and sites accessed must also support SPDY or TLS. These are often used with mobile devices, so this is more of a mobile exploit than it is a desktop exploit. 42% of sites out there support TLS, at least that's what Qualys told Ars Technica. On your desktop, IE, Chrome, and Firefox are believed immune. Chrome and Firefox both had patches for SPDY. They don't support TLS, and IE never supported SPDY or TLS. Smartphone browsers and other software that rely on TLS, however, may be vulnerable, and use of the compression in smaller browsers is unknown. Also, Safari does not use SPDY, but we don't know how they implement or if they implement TLS. There's a video done by these researchers who discovered this vulnerability showing GitHub, Dropbox, and Stripe.com all succumbing to the attack. Those sites have since disabled compression, and so they are no longer susceptible. So that's the thing. You either use the patch for SPDY or you disable compression for TLS, and you're safe. The same researchers are the ones who discovered Beast last year, and it's a similar principle. Now, here's where it gets weird. What the attacker does is mixes clear text that's not encrypted, which is under the attacker's control, with the encrypted text that is coming through TLS and sees how it reacts. It's a brute force attack that allows them to deduce the content just of the session cookie. But once they get the session cookie, then they can impersonate the user and unlock all kinds of things. What the crime exploit does specifically is forces a web browser to compress and encrypt requests that contain attacker-controlled data that is combined with the cookie secret. If one of the requests produces fewer encrypted network packets, that's an indication there's more redundancy in the request. This is taking advantage of compression, right? If a compression algorithm works by saying, well, all this data is the same, so we're only going to store it once instead of multiple times. If your clear text is correct, it says, oh, well, we don't have to encrypt that because it's correct, and you notice that there's fewer bytes there. And so the algorithm is written to take advantage of that, of noticing that change in what happens, and then brute force is eventually getting the entire key. Rizzo and Duong are scheduled to demonstrate the crime vulnerability on September 21st at the Eco Party Security Conference in Buenos Aires. And you should definitely read the Ars Technica article about this. And if you want to find out more, Dan Gooden did a great job of explaining how this works. I don't know that there's much to discuss here, but is this... You guys have questions? Does it make sense? And basically the thing to do to protect yourself is use a patched browser and try not to use any services that you don't trust or don't know have disabled TLS.
Yeah, when I read the article, the fact that this wouldn't be like just some run-of-the-mill person trying to run this exploit. This was about state actors. This is like you need a ton of resources to make this exploit even work, and then you also need a very special case for it to work. As long as you're, I guess, on a desktop browser, you're probably okay. It is a little unsettling that your mobile browser, which is what a lot of people are just using as their machines anyway,
might not be safe.
Right. If that's got a hole in it, that's something that you want to make sure is patched, or you want to be very careful that I guess almost anti-SPDY at that point. You don't want to even use that protocol. You might be a little nervous about it. It's just it's a little unsettling, but it seems like unless you're going against the state, you've got very little to worry about.
Yeah, it's a government thing. Exactly. It's not the coffee shop attacker that's going to get you. Go ahead, Randall.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, this is like NSA level, someone who wants to impersonate someone to log into their email or get some protected source code or something. This is not run-of-the-mill, everyday, like wire sharking someone's cookie and, doing that. I mean, this is like I have lots of resources and I really want to know what you're doing. So,
all right, let's finish up with the fact that you streaming that album of music just killed the earth.
Pretty much, yeah. No, well, sort of. UK-based Music Tank, which is a network group for the music industry, released a report called The Hidden Cost of Digital Music Consumption. And the idea behind it is energy used by cloud media services ends up using a lot of energy. In fact, the report author named Dagfinn Bach said streaming or downloading 12 tracks without compression just 27 times by a single user would, in energy terms, equate to the production and shipping of one physical 12-track CD album. Now, repeated streaming of individual tracks may not necessarily be a desirable long-term solution with respect to energy consumption for the life cycle of sound recording. Of course, cloud services all sound good. We can get rid of all of our physical media. I know Randall has a bunch of CDs behind him. He can just clean up his whole wall. But servers have to be somewhere creating a lot of energy in order to store all of this information.
And they accounted for the creation of the disc, the shipping of the disc, the oil required to drive the cars around, all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of an apples and oranges thing. You're taking up less space, but there is energy. So, yeah, there's a bit of you have to take some sort of liberties when converting types of energy. But yes, that's exactly what they're saying. He also, even though Music Tank is focused on music and it's been around for a while, obviously once digital music became a big deal, said if you calculate current energy consumption based on YouTube streaming, it's around 0.1% of 2010 global electricity levels. So as of a couple years ago, less, a tenth of a percent, rising to 1% by 2013 if streaming continues to increase as it has thus far. That's a huge jump.
But that assumes that the power efficiency of servers stays the same too. And with virtualization, with solar-powered data centers, I mean, that's going to change the equation over time.
I think it will. I don't think it's going to change it by 2013, though.
Well, but also their reference point is uncompressed track. Like, how big is an uncompressed track? 53 megs. How these AAC compressed tracks are like 4 to 6. So, I mean, I would times their calculation by a factor of 10, effectively 270 times you stream an album.
If you really like the album, though, you might do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not saying that's outside the realm of possibility, but I do think it's a little bit less of a problem as technology evolves, streaming evolves, local caches. I mean, there's tons of ways of, mitigating data center costs, which is really what they would be doing, right? Data centers want to use less electricity. That's their primary expense other than hardware, and heat, dissipation. So that's, there's going to be things that come out to reduce these costs.
I think that's true. I think that's all valid, but we also have to account for the fact that more people will be streaming next year. Many more people will be streaming in 5 years. So it is a matter of making sure that your energy efficiency is always getting better, but you still have to account for exponential growth in users.
True.
And streaming just getting more popular in general. Bach had a few good solutions. He points out Spotify, for example, one of many services that are already using a built-in local cache. So if you've streamed a song already, you don't have to repeat the entire stream because it kind of remembers where you already were, at least for a limited time. He says a close-to-consumer cloud solution like that is a more environmentally friendly option for online content delivery. Then he gets into a little bit more of what the entertainment industry would say is a beep crazy idea. So he says, for example, a 1 petabyte drive capable of storing all the songs ever recorded could cost $100 in not too distant of the future if you follow something like Moore's Law. Mm-hmm. He says, if the entertainment industry wasn't so locked down, wasn't so DRM crazy, they could offer all of these songs, obviously until the point of present, because songs will continue to be made, but all of the songs ever created, at least the entertainment industry recognizes, on one drive, minus the metadata that's required to play the songs, so that you could still only access the songs via some sort of a paid subscription from the cloud, and ease a lot of the strain on the cloud itself.
All the songs.
All of the
songs.
Up to a point, because if you dare stream them or download them, you'll be killing the planet at the same time. Well, I mean, it's a great idea. It just reminds me of this silly idea SanDisk did, this little slot radio. I don't know if you remember this little micro SD card they'd sell, and it would work on only one player. It's like if you want to move this stuff around, I guess you could.
It's pretty fascinating that that's possible. I think he's right.
But the idea of buying this, so I got to drive somewhere or order from Amazon, so it's still going to show up. I'm kind of curious about how much resources it's going to take to move this petabyte drive. And then what happens like when a new song happens? Should all music stop at that point? Because that's it. Now I'm going to save the planet because I got my
it's going to get cracked in 2 seconds. I mean, there's too much of an incentive to crack the scheme for like obscuring data. That would just be like free music. For $100, you get all music ever.
Does folk music more green than, say, metal?
Yes.
Or is it all the same?
No, it's all a sham, Tom. It's just as not green as all other music. Damn. They don't want you to know that. That's the dark secret.
This is a very interesting story, though. I'm glad we talked about it.
It's a thinker.
Yeah. It's a music thinker.
It's a real head scratcher. What are we going to do with all this energy? It's hot.
We do. The base of this all is it has nothing to do with music streaming or anything else. It's the fact that we're continuing to use the internet, and we need a more efficient and better way to use energy.
That's right.
Because it's not like the internet is just being used for streaming music. It's all kinds of things being done.
These companies are incentivized to make these things more efficient anyway. They have to pay the electric bills, and they have to pay for the streaming costs.
Yep.
And we have to pay for the streaming costs.
But then, what will my set look like when I don't have CDs behind it?
No, it'll look retro. You can put LPs back there too.
Wax cylinders.
Wax cylinders.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the randomizer.
Randomizer.
Speaking of retro, the world's first color film footage discovered in England. They thought they already knew what the world's first color film footage was until they found this. Curator of the silent films, Byron E. Dixon at the British Film Institute, said the 1902 footage was incredibly significant. It was created by Edward Raymond Turner, who patented his color process on March 22nd, 1899. And as you just saw, if you're looking at the video version, some of the footage features Mr. Turner's children in the garden. You go ahead and keep playing the video, Jason, because it gets to some more. There's some soldiers marching in full color. People having fun swinging.
Look at those outfits.
Out in the park.
That's great.
The problem with his system, with Mr. Turner's system, was it didn't work in projection. He was able to record color film on this sort of 38 millimeter film, but he couldn't get it to play back. And so it never succeeded. He ended up dying a couple of years after this footage was taken. And they just discovered it in a can, went to some great lengths to digitize the footage, and figured out that digitally they could actually make it work. What he couldn't make work physically back in the day, they were able to make work now. And so there was a spinning color wheel that actually would spin, that was supposed to separate the colors, and they were able to simulate that in a way that allowed them to create this color footage from 1902.
That's great.
His proprietary system basically bit him. If he just opened it up,
He was the beta
I think
max
when
of
you're
1902.
first, you don't call it a proprietary
You
system.
say first.
technically.
Yeah.
Actually, all comments should say they're proprietary. Right?
Yeah.
Fine.
Very, very interesting stuff there. And there's going to be a television show on BBC focusing on how they were able to discover this, and you'll be able to see it, I think, in Bradford at the museum there, if you want to go take a look at it yourself. Let's check the calendar.
So if you're like, iPhone
know what happened
5 is super annoying, I don't even care, maybe you'll want the Motorola Droid Razr M, which arrives at Verizon today for $99. Don't even have to wait. Not a second longer.
Shipping today.
But if you are interested in the iPhone 5 and you're also one of those prepaid customers who likes their options, you'll be glad to know that the iPhone 5 is coming to Cricket, C Spire, and other regional carriers on September 28th. So if you've got a good deal going on, you can go ahead and upgrade. Finally, Apple didn't say anything about Ping yesterday at their announcement.
Very pointedly didn't say
Ping
anything.
was not discussed. You never saw anything about Ping. But if you look on the website, this is in the iTunes section, Apple does say that Ping is shutting down on September 30th. Goodbye, Ping. We won't really miss
It's not
you.
my fault. I loved you, Ping.
I don't know. Okay.
You're the
Tom
one.
is upset, but no one else cares.
No, I'm really the
How much
only one.
socializing could you do by yourself on that network?
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. I did like
do-it-yourself.
There were other people there.
The thing is, it surprises me
didn't
that
know.
Apple let it go this long. Even Tim Cook Wasn't it at the latest, the new iPad announcement? I think that was the one I'm thinking of, where he kind of says, "Yeah, Ping, it's
I think
it
it was
is
all
what it
things
is."
D conference. He said that, but yeah.
It was the D conference. That's right.
Yeah, just Ping, like, you don't need a network just to like tell people you like music. I'm glad they added the like buttons.
I think Ping did more harm just being available than actually being shut down, because people kept making fun of how nobody used it. Now they can't.
I would accidentally ping things sometimes without realizing it, but no one was paying attention, so it was fine.
Doesn't matter.
Let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
Got an email from B Woogie. Maybe you have in the past, but no one has mentioned lately. Talking to your computer is quite the privacy predicament. Like Tom said, I don't want to talk to people, let alone my computer. But if I'm talking to my computer, everyone around me knows exactly what I'm doing. I don't want anyone to know I'm emailing TNT. That's embarrassing. Speaking of embarrassing, who wants to be sitting in the corner of a coffee shop talking to themselves? At least that's what it looks like from the outside. Maybe worse than talking on a Bluetooth device? Sure, talking to your computer is great for disabled people and accessibility. Personally, I think it's what 3D TVs are, though. A gimmick.
Nonsense. Absolute nonsense, B-Woogie. That's what I'm going to call you out on this one. Because it looked crazy when you had the little earbud in and you were talking on that. And it made crazy people look sane because you didn't know if they had a Bluetooth headset. But like, if it had, when you make a, I don't know, let's say you're on the phone and you're setting up travel arrangements, you do give out credit card information over the phone with your voice. I've seen people do it in restaurants. So it's not like it's impossible.
Me do it in a restaurant just the other day.
Yeah, so the thing is, it's I think there are use cases for this. If it's your computer, it's just another thing. I just think it's trying to keep all those feature sets together. You don't want to be able to go, why does my phone do that? My computer doesn't. This thing is obviously more powerful than my phone. Why can't it do it?
Nah.
Well, and Siri has some very specific use cases. You can execute specific tasks faster audibly than you can by typing. I mean, add a reminder to my reminders. Like, that's a great example. And I love that. And I love if I could use things on my computer and throw reminders in it audibly. That'd be great.
I had voice recognition on my Packard Bell 486 DX with Windows 95. Actually, it might have been Windows 3.1 back in the day. It was kind of nifty whiz bang back then, but I'm over it. I don't need to talk. I don't need to use voice recognition on my PC.
And for
It's good now, though, right? Like, back then it was so bad. It's good now. So
well, it actually wasn't
it's improved.
Yeah. Sound Blaster had
For
some
B Woogie, if you remember, I know we talked about it in a past episode, how you didn't have to actually talk out loud, but it would read your lips.
I would like that.
Yes.
It doesn't work that
perfect.
way yet. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Then you aren't talking out loud, and you're still talking to your computer.
Then I want
you're just muttering.
Sub-vocalization. Jaw movements. All right, that's it for this episode of Tech News Today. Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening, for submitting stories at our subreddit, technewstoday.reddit.com. We look at that every day to figure out what stories to put in the show. It's one of our sources. And thank you, Randall Bennett, for joining us. Let folks know what you're up to, where they can find you on the internet.
Yeah, so I run a startup called VidPresso. It's a way for TV stations to take social media and show it on air, as well as TWiT. You guys use it on the Know How Show. Yep. And we just launched on Anderson Cooper's Anderson Live this week. So we're starting to take off. Woohoo. That's at vidpresso.com. My Twitter is Randall B, so follow me there. And if you work at a TV station and you guys want to use it, mention TWiT and we'll give you a hookup. So.
Congratulations, by the way. That's a good client.
You're getting Know How. That was pretty good.
That's what I was talking about. The Anderson Cooper thing's good too, though. All right, that's it for us. Thanks, folks. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv. And you can give us a call and leave us a voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW. We'll be back tomorrow. It's Friday, so Darren Kitchen will be here. We'll see you then.